Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are doing a video on casual commander deck building. Uh, we are going with Elsha Threefold Master. The reason why we're going with her is there's a couple monks out there that would be good choices, especially in the Jeskai colors, the blue, red, and the white. The reason why we're going with this one in particular is because it is the cheapest. It is 3 mana. It's the lowest that you can get with all 3 colors. And there's a couple out there that are like 5 or 6 with some like Narset or I think there was another one I can't remember. He's in the deck, but I went with 3 because this is likely to die a lot, so you want to have cheaper casts to get it out there more often. It has Trample, it has Prowess, so whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. And whenever Elsha deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 monk creature tokens with prowess. And Elsha's a 1/1. Now, this is a monk deck, right, where we build around monk tribal, so it's going to do monk things and also Jeskai things. So it's got some blue and some spell slinging and some white life gain and all that fun stuff thrown in together. Oh, yeah, here we go. Elsha of the Infinite. 2 mana, blue, red, and white. Also has prowess. You may look at the top card of your library anytime, and you may cast the top card of your library if it's a non-creature, non-land card, and you may cast it as though it had flash. Flash basically makes things cast at instant speed. And it's a 3/3. This was the alternative commander I had in mind, but it's 2 more, so it's a little less likely to... Okay. Shiko and Narset unified. 1 mana, blue, red, and a white. Has flying and vigilance. And whenever you cast your second spell each turn, copy that spell. If it targets a permanent or a player, and you may choose new targets for the copy. If you don't copy the spell this way, you draw a card. It's a 4/4. Also not a bad setup for the commander. If you want to switch out any of these 3, it works perfectly fine. Island. Baral's Expertise, 3 and 2 blue. Return up to 3 target artifacts and or creatures to their owner's hand. You may cast a spell with mana value 4 or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. Sulphur Falls, it's a land that enters tapped unless you already control an island or a mountain, and it taps for blue or red. Monastery Mentor, 2 and a white, has prowess, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you create a 1/1 monk creature token. Sabin, Master Monk, 4 and a red. This is from Final Fantasy. It has double strike, so it attacks once, and then normal combat rules happen where it attacks again. You can pay 2 and 2 red and to discard a card. And basically what that does is it allows you, it's called Blitz. It allows you to bring the character in, it has haste, it does its thing, and then at the end of the turn you sacrifice it. And you may cast this card from your graveyard using its Blitz ability. It's a 4/3, so if it's in the graveyard, you can keep bringing it out every time. Good way to get a quick creature on board. Sword of War and Peace, 3 mana. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from red and white. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, the sword deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards in their hand, and you gain life equal to the number of cards in your hand. Island. We got Jeskai Brushmaster, 1 blue, red, and white. It has double strike and prowess, and it's a 2/4. Leyline of Anticipation, 2 and 2 blue. If this is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. So when you decide who goes first and you draw out your hand and it's in your opening hand, you can say, I have a pregame action, put it on the board for free before you even start the game. It's pretty cool. And this basically makes it so you can cast your spells as though they had flash. Lightning Bolt. 1 red, and it does 3 damage to any target. Good classic removal. A Braid, 1 and a red. You choose one, Either it deals 3 damage to a target creature, or you can destroy an artifact. It's always good to have choices. The Grey Havens, it enters the battlefield and you scry. It taps for a colorless, or it taps for a mana of any color among legendary creatures in your graveyard. So it doesn't start out too great, but it gets better later. Comeuppance, 3 and a white. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you and planeswalkers you control this turn by sources you don't control. If damage from a creature source is prevented this way, Comeuppance deals that much damage to that creature. If damage from a non-creature source is prevented this way, Comeuppance deals damage to that source's controller. So if a creature hits you, the creature takes it. If they cast a lightning bolt, the controller takes it. Oop, nope. Okay. Island. Descend upon the Sinful, 4 and 2 white. Exile all creatures. And Delirium, I think Delirium is if you have like 4 different types of cards, so instant, sorcery, creature, artifact, enchantment, planeswalker, or 7 different types, or 7 cards in your graveyard somewhere, something like that. It doesn't say on the card, but it says Delirium, so it's something along those lines. If you have that, when you cast this, you create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. If there are 4 more card types among grave, oh, it says it right there. Okay, never mind. I was right. Whirlwind of Thought. 1, a blue, a red, and a white. This is an enchantment, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you draw a card. Great card draw. Good card. Cyclonic Rift. 1 and a blue. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand. Or you can overload it for 6 and a blue. Basically, what it does is it changes it from a target, so 1, to all, or each. So every single thing on your opponent's boards return back to their hand, except for the lands. This is a game changer, so be wary. 3 and 2 red for Pinnacle Monk. It has prowess, and when it enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. It is a 2/2, and on the opposite side, it could also be a land that taps for red. So if you don't have a land and you need a land, you can put it out there instead. Rebuff the Wicked, 1 white. Counter target spell that targets a permanent you control. So if they're going to try and exile, Swords to Plowshare your commander, you can go, nope, I counter that. Because it's cheap and it's white, and white doesn't have a lot of those. Narset of the Ancient Way. 1 mana, blue, red, and white. She's a planeswalker. And you can +1 her to gain 2 life and add a blue, red, or white. But you can spend it only to cast non-creature spells. The -2 is to draw a card, then you may discard a card. When you discard a non-land card this way, she deals damage equal to that card's mana value to target creature or planeswalker. And then you can -6 to get an emblem that says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, the emblem deals 2 damage to any target. Rhystic Study, 2 and a blue. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays 1. That is a game changer as well. Baral and Kari Zev. 1, a blue, and a red. First Strike and Menace. Whenever you cast your first instant or sorcery spell each turn, you may cast a spell with lesser mana value that shares a card type with it from your hand without paying its mana cost. So if you cast an instant, you can then cast another instant for free, or a sorcery, then another sorcery for free. If you don't cast another card for free, you can create a legendary 2/1 red monkey pirate creature token. It gains haste until the end of turn, and they are a 2/1. Silence, 1 white. Your opponents can't cast spells this turn. So if you got a big important turn, you want to get stuff out, throw out a silence. Or if you cast a big spell and they want to counter it, throw out a silence. It's a good way to help protect your stuff. Soul Ring, 1 mana, taps for 2 colorless. Plains. And Electro Dominance, it has an X cost and 2 red. So Electro Dominance deals X damage to any target, and you may cast a spell with mana value X or less from your hand without paying its mana cost. So if I pay 5 and 2 red, that's 7 total, I'll deal 5 damage to a target, and then a spell of 5 or less from my hand, I can play for free. Glacial Fortress, it enters tapped unless you control plains or an island, and it taps for a plains or an island. Sea Double, 2 and 2 blue. This spell can't be copied. You choose one. If an opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, you may choose both. So you copy target spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. If it is a copy of a permanent spell, then you get a token copy of it. Or you can create a token that's a copy of target creature. So if somebody casts a lightning bolt or a path to exile and you want to copy that, bam. Or if someone casts a big creature and you want to copy that, bam. And then you can also make a token of another creature. So you can get 2 creatures out there, or a permanent like an enchantment or a planeswalker. Jaya, Fiery Negotiator, 2 and 2 red. You can +1 her to create a 1/1 red monk creature token with prowess. You can -1 to exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them, and you may play that card this turn. I'm not really a fan of these types of mechanics, because if there's something that I really need to cast, let's say I have only 4 mana, right? And I exile something, and it's a really good spell that I really need, but it's 5 or more mana, and I can't cast it, and then it's exiled and gone forever. Not a particular fan of that mechanic, so if you do that, be ready to gamble. -2, choose target creature an opponent controls. Whenever you attack this turn, Jaya deals damage equal to the number of attacking creatures to that creature. And -8, you get an emblem with whenever you cast a red instant or sorcery spell, you copy it twice. You may choose new targets for the copies. That's a pretty good one. Tragic Arrogance, 3 and 2 white. For each player, including yourself, you choose from among the permanents that player controls an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker. Then each player sacrifices all other non-land permanents they control. It's a good way to reduce the board back down to a balanced state. Lease Hexed, 1 a white and a blue. This is also from Final Fantasy. Prowess, non-creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And as long as you've cast 2 or more non-creature spells this turn, she gains Double Strike. And she's a 2/2. Shrike Force, 2 and a white. Flying, Double Strike, and Vigilance. It's a 1/3. It's a little bird knight. Narset's Reversal, 2 blue. Copy target instant or sorcery spell, then return it to its owner's hand. You may choose new targets for the copy. So you can do this as kind of a delay for someone else casting the spell and you get to take over it. Or if you want to stack up your prowess effects, you can cast a spell and then you can cast this on your own spell, returning that spell to your hand, copying it, and then you can cast that spell again if you have the mana for it to stack up prowess triggers, or trigger some other fun things out there. Planes. Power Balance. This is a fun one. 2 red. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may reveal the top card of your library. If you do, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost if the 2 spells have the same mana value. Transcendent Dragon, 4 and 2 blue. It has flash and flying. And then when this creature enters, if you cast it, you counter target spell. This is an expensive counter spell, but still good to have. You exile the spell that you're countering. Then you may cast that spell without paying its mana cost. It's a 4/3. Run Away Together, 1 and a blue. Choose 2 target creatures controlled by different players and return those creatures to their owner's hands. Planes. Elish Norn Grand Cenobite, 5 and 2 white. And you might be wondering why I have a dragon or a praetor, Phyrexian, and not a monk, is you need to have at least 1 or 2 big bombs in your deck to help push things over the edge, give yourself the edge in the circumstances. And this is one of those. So it has vigilance. Other creatures you control get +2/+2, and creatures your opponents control get -2/-2. And she's a 4/7. This is a great board wipe for smaller creatures, people that are running token decks. Great way to level the playing field. Norn's Annex, 3 and 2 Phyrexian white, meaning that the white can either be paid with a white mana or 2 life per pip. So you can either pay a white and 2 life, or 4 life, or 2 white. And then creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controllers also pay a Phyrexian white for each creature. Urabrask, 2 and 2 red. Another Phyrexian Praetor. First strike, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Urabrask deals 1 damage to target opponent, and you add a red mana. This is a great way to stack up, kind of how I was talking that Narset's Reversal. You cast an instant, you get a red mana. This copies that spell. Now you got 2. You cast it again using, by this time, 3 red mana that you've been able to develop, and then you can cast a 4th spell. Or you can pay a red to exile Urabrask, and then return it to the battlefield transformed under its owner's hand, under its owner's control. Activate only as a sorcery, and only if you cast 3 or more instant and or sorcery spells this turn. It's a 4/4. It turns into a Saga, the Great Work. The Great Work deals 3 damage to target opponent and each creature they control. Phase 2, you create 3 treasure tokens. And Phase 3, until end of turn, you may cast instant and sorcery spells from any graveyard. If a spell cast this way would be put into a graveyard, you exile instead. Then you exile the Great Work and return it to the battlefield front side up. So, great little way to get going. Create little combos there, flip it, do some fun stuff. A great way to make that happen is Mana Geyser, 3 and 2 red. You add a red mana for each tapped land your opponents control. Blind Obedience, 1 and a white. It has Extort, meaning whenever you cast a spell, you may pay a white or a black. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain that much life. I did look it up, and it says that it is okay to have an Extort cost in a non-extorted color, so don't worry about that. Artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. People don't like that, but it is good stuff. Plains. Swords to Plowshares, 1 white. You exile target creature, and its controller gains life equal to its power. Grand Abolisher, 2 white. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. It's a 2/2. But it does allow them to activate mana abilities, I think. Activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, enchantments. I guess it covers it. Usually they define that. Now that I'm thinking about it, it usually will say except mana abilities. So that one is all, so they can't do anything. Mountain. Clifftop Retreat. It enters tapped unless you control a mountain or a plains, and it taps for a mountain or a plains. Let's separate you a little bit. Chromatic Lantern, 3 mana. Lands you control have add 1 mana of any color, and this itself taps for add mana of any color. It's a good way to mana fix if you're only getting 1 of 1 type. Deflecting Swat, 2 and a red. If you control a commander, you may cast this spell without paying its mana cost. You may choose new targets for target spell or ability. Again, so if they're going to say Swords to Plowshares, your commander, and you'd be like, nope, I'm going to cast this for free because my commander's out, then you can choose the copy of that Swords to Plowshare to go to their commander instead. Island, Command Tower, Mountain, Third Past Iconoclast, a red and a blue. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. It's a 2/1. It's a monk. It doesn't create the monks, but it creates extra tokens that help flow at the board a bit. Mantis Rider, a blue, a red, and a white. Flying, Vigilance, and Haste. It's a 3/3. It's a simple creature, 3 for 3 for 3. Flying, Vigilance, Haste, all 3 numbers. Awesome. It's a great card. Crystal Grotto. When it enters the battlefield, you scry 1. Taps for a colorless. And then you have to pay a color, and then you can add, you can pay a mana and then pay, you can pay a mana of any color, and then tap it to add a mana of any color. So if you're needing to fix your mana a little bit, that's a way to help get around it, but other than that, not too bad. Arcane Signet, 2 mana, taps to add a mana of any color from your commander's color identity, so blue, red, or white. Clever Concealment, 2 and 2 white. You can convoke it, meaning your creatures can help cast it. Each creature you tap while casting it will pay for one of the colorless. Spell pays for one colorless or one mana of that creature's color. Okay, so if the creature has a matching color to make up for the white, it can do the white. Any number of target non-land permanents you control phase out, meaning you treat them and anything attached to them as though they don't exist until your next turn. So if someone's going to do a board wipe, you can go like, oh, I'm going to save these 3, and then they phase out and they're safe, and your turn comes back, and you get them back. 1 blue for Strix Serenade. Counter target artifact, creature, or planeswalker spell. Its controller creates a 2/2 bluebird creature token with flying. Path of Ancestry, it enters tapped, but you can tap it for a color of any in your commander's color identity. When that mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shares a creature type with your commander, you scribe one. So it's a monk and a Djinn, so if you have any other Djinns, but the monk will also work. Is it Charm, a blue and a red? You can choose one of these options. Counter target non-creature spell, unless its controller pays an additional 2 mana, or it deals 2 damage to target creature, or draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. And a volcanic island, this is a proxy, of course. I don't have $700 to throw at a piece of cardboard, but you can tap it for a blue or a red. Mystical Tutor, I believe this is also a game changer. Search your library for an instant or sorcery card, reveal that card, shuffle your library, then put the card on top of it. Usually this is a good thing to do on your opponent's turn that goes right before you do at the end of their turn. Just have a general idea what you're searching for, so that way you don't take forever kind of looking through it. And then start of your turn, you get to pull it up. Seize the Spotlight, 2 and a red. For each opponent chooses Fame or Fortune. For each player who chooses Fame, gain control of a creature that player controls until end of turn. You untap those creatures, they gain haste until end of turn. For each player who chooses Fortune, you draw a card and create a treasure token. Plains. Myriad Landscape enters tapped. You can tap it for a colorless, or you can pay 2 mana and sacrifice it. And you search your library for up to 2 basic land cards that share a land type. So 2 plains, 2 islands, 2 mountains. They enter the battlefield tapped, and then you shuffle. Sorcerer class, a blue and a red. Level 1, when a sorcerer class enters the battlefield, you draw 2 cards and discard 2 cards. You can pay a blue and a red to level it up. Creatures you control have tap for a blue or a red. Spend this mana only to cast instant or sorcery spells to gain a class level. So if you wanted to go to level 3. Or a class of a different... so Paladin, Cleric, the other enchantment classes. And then 3 and a red and a blue for level 3. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that deals damage to each opponent to the number of instant or sorcery spells you've cast this turn. So the more that you combo up here, so with Narset's Reversal and let's say Lightning Bolt, that's 3 to 4 spells. You flip Urabrask, and then you'll deal 4 damage to each opponent because you've cast 4 spells. Snapcaster Mage, 1 and a blue, flash, so anytime. When it enters the battlefield, target instant or sorcery card in your graveyard gains flashback until end of turn. The flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. And you may cast that card from your graveyard for its flashback cost, then you exile it. It's a 2/1. So you flash it in when somebody casts something that you don't like, and then your instant or sorcery in the graveyard. Then you can be like, oh, well, I have a lightning bolt. I will instant cast that on your creature that you just cast, and bam, killed it. Plains. Gilded Lotus, 5 mana. You can tap it to add 3 mana of any one color. Eldrazi Conscription, 8 mana. Now, I need to double check on this because I don't know if you can have tribal spells. So it's an Eldrazi Aura. I don't know if this needs to have Eldrazi in it, or it has to be cast on an Eldrazi. I don't think so. Yeah, I need to find out what the tribal enchantment stuff does. I can't remember. If it does end up having to be in an Eldrazi deck or target an Eldrazi creature, then we'll remove this. I'll have to take a look at that in here in a minute. But it's a great thing. You enchant a creature, and enchanted creature gets +10/+10, has trample, and Annihilator 2. Meaning whenever it attacks, defending player sacrifices 2 permanents. It's a great, great buff. And we'll find out if that can even be in this deck. Big Score, 3 in a red. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you discard a card. Then you draw 2 cards and you create 2 treasure tokens. Lightning Angel, 1 mana, red, white, and a blue. Flying, Vigilance, Haste, and is a 3/4. Very similar to our Mantis Rider. Just a little bit tougher for a little bit more mana. But good, solid card to have in there because we do need flyers. The Reality Chip, 1 in a blue. It's a legendary artifact creature and an equipment. So you may look at the top card of your library at any time. Now, if the Reality Chip is attached to a creature, you may play lands and cast spells from the top of your library. And you have to do its reconfigure cost. So 2 in a blue, you pay that, and then you can attach it to a creature. When it is attached to a creature, this is no longer a creature. So if your creature it is attached to dies, this comes back, acts as a creature itself. Mountain. Sage of the Inward Eye. 2, a blue, a red, and a white. It has flying, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn. So you got a bunch of monks that you've created from a couple of dudes here. Swing out big, cast any non-creature, cast an Arcane Signet. All of your creatures gain lifelink. You get a huge buff in your life total. It's a great way to come back. Or on the defense as well, if someone's swinging at you. Prismari Command, 1, a blue, and a red, and you can choose 2 of these options. It deals 2 damage to any target. Target player draws 2 cards, then discards 2 cards. Target player creates a treasure token, or destroy target artifact. We got Lightning Greaves, 2 mana. Equipped creature has haste and shroud, meaning it can't be the target of any spells or abilities. And equip cost, 0. Island. Chandra, Torch of Defiance, 2 and 2 red. +1 to exile the top card of your library. You may cast that card. If you don't, Chandra Torch deals 2 damage to each opponent. Now, this one I might use if I've got some opponents that got some big blockers and I can't get through them, but they're low on life and I need to deal damage to them. That's a way to get around it. So I might be a little more willing to jump into that. But here's the main reason you got it. +1 to add 2 mana. Mana ramp's great. Or -3 to deal 4 damage to target creature. So if you need some creature removal, also good stuff. And then the -7 is you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, this emblem deals 5 damage to any target. That's the one that you want. That's the one that's going to be the real go-getter there. Mystic Monastery. This land enters tapped, and it taps for blue, red, or white. Ugin's Conjurant. It's X mana. So you can pay any mana you want into it. And it enters the battlefield with that many +1/+1 counters. So I put 5 mana into it. It comes in as a 5/5. So if damage would be dealt to Ugin's Conjurant while it has a +1 counter on it, you prevent that damage and remove that many +1/+1 counters from it. It's a monk. Ghostly Prison, 2 and a white. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. This works great with Norn's Annex, because now that bumps it up to 3 mana, specifically 2 mana and a white, or 2 mana and 2 life. Reflecting Pool. Add 1 mana of any type that a land you control could produce. Reality Shift. 1 and a blue. You exile target creature. Its controller then manifests the top card of their library. So that player puts the top card of their library onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature. If it's a creature card, it can be turned face up anytime for its mana cost. If not, they lose that. It just is a 2/2 creature. It's a great way to kind of be really mean. Let's say they mystical tutor something to the top of their deck, and then you go, well, we're going to exile your creature, and now that card that you tutored for become. It's a little mean, but it is a good combo. It works. Temple of the False God taps for 2 colorless, but you can activate it only if you control 5 or more lands. We're out of space. You're in the way again, Tifa. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to move you. Mountain. So Alharu. Solemn Ritualist. 4 and a white. When it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures. Whenever a non-token creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it dies, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. And it has partner. It's a 3/3. So if you have, let's say, a red and a blue commander that also has partner, then you can have those 2 set up as partner instead of Elsha. Some options there. Savine's Reclamation, 2 and a white. Return target permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. If the spell was cast from a graveyard, you may copy this spell, and you may choose new target for the copy. And it has a flashback cost of 5 and a white, so you can cast again and then exile it. Reliquary Tower, no maximum hand size, taps for colorless. Aligned Heart, 2 and a white. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a rally counter on this enchantment. Then create a 1/1 white monk creature token with prowess for each rally counter on it. So the more spells you cast, the more counters it gets, and then every time you do that, so first round you get 1, the second round you'll get 2, the third round you get 3. So every time, and it's only the second spell, so it doesn't stack in the same round. It has to go round, round, round. But then you build up 1, 2, 3, 4. And because it is a counter, if you have a way to proliferate, which I don't think we do in this deck, so what you might want to do is the sword that we had in here. Where did that go? Which one was this? If you replace that sword with the Sword of War and Peace. If you trade out the Sword of War and Peace with, say, the Sword of Truth and Justice, that one proliferates. So that's a +1/+1 protection from, I think, white and blue. When you deal combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature, and then you proliferate. So that would be a good way to put in that. I might actually switch out the swords that way. Monk of the Open Hand, 1 white. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Monk of the Open Hand. It's a 1/1. So this would work great in combination with that. They both get benefits. Reigns of Power, 2 and 2 blue. Untap all creatures you control, and all creatures target opponent controls. You and that opponent each gain control of all creatures the other controls until end of turn. Those creatures gain haste until end of turn. This is a great way to do something. Should say somebody board wipe, protects their board, and it comes around to your turn where you have no creatures. You're just like, all right, we swap creatures. I swing out with your creatures and kill you. It's a good one. Shiny Impetus, 2 and a red. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and is goaded, meaning it attacks each combat if it's able, and it attacks a player other than you if able. So if there's 2 other opponents, he'll have to attack one of them. But if it's just you and that person, it will have to attack you. And whenever that creature attacks, you create a treasure token. So extra mana there. Good stuff. Faith's Reward, 3 and a white. Return to the battlefield all permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there from the battlefield this turn. So if somebody does a board wipe and kill all your stuff, and you're like, no, I want it back, it has to be done the same turn that it was destroyed. And then Prairie Stream. This land enters tapped unless you control 2 or more basic lands, and it taps for a white or a blue. So there you go. There's your simple, casual commander. Nothing too fancy. It's got 1 or 2 game changers in there, but again, that's still a new thing that's being figured out. Adjust it according to your wishes. I might switch out that sword so it synergizes a little bit better with some of the stuff here. And we do want to buff our 1/1 monks, so you might want to look at putting something in like a coat of arms or a banner. What's the name of that banner? I can't remember, but there's a banner that you choose a creature type, those creatures get +1/+1, and it taps for a mana of any color. That's a great one to have in here. But we're not looking to, build up and swing out and be big crazy stuff. This is, again, casual. So it's simple. It's more fun for maybe newer players to figure it out. But it's a good, simple one. Got some fun stuff. Good interaction. I like it. I've played it a couple times. It's doing well so far. And yeah, hope you like it. Have fun with it. Go out there, play, have a good time. And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.